following the kidnapping of NRM's General Miguna by armed gangsters sent by members of the Mount Kenya mafia cartel, and following the illegal deportation of General Miguna from Kenya to Canada, there have been certain developments in Kenya. Most importantly, the leadership of the national resistance movement has said that Kenya needs an election by August of 2018. At the moment, members of the national resistance movement do not need an election. They need secession. The country is already divided, and talk about an election in August is extremely dangerous, especially if the issue is not well clarified. What NRM members need at the moment is for the leadership of both NASA and the national resistance movement to talk about secession. They should not be talking about another election, because Kenya does not need another election. Kenya is already having two presidents. One president is for the Central Republic of Kenya, also known as the Utamaki Republic, and another president belongs to the People's Republic of Kenya. We have Uhuru Kenyatta on the one hand, who is an illegal president who took power illegally with 3 million votes, and on the other hand, we have Raila Odinga, who took power democratically after being elected by more than 8 million people, and who was also sworn in. So this is not the time to talk about another election. There should be no discussion with the Jubilee government about any election. Therefore, members of NASA and NRM should get their priorities right. The leadership should give direction. The current direction that NRM members are interested in is to split up this country, because this country is already split up. The only difference is that it has not been mapped out. It already had two presidents. What is lacking is the details. But we cannot pretend that we still have the Kenya we had before elections. We are in two different countries, and there is need for a recognition of this fact, and that is why both NASA and the National Resistance Movement should stop talking about another election to be held by another IEBC. Even sitting down to discuss an election, whom are you going to sit down with? Are you going to sit down with a criminal called Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto to discuss another election? These crooks have consistently bullshitted NASA members, NASA leadership, with all talk about an election, and they ended up organizing their own election that was boycotted by NASA. So why should there be another election? Who is going to conduct this election? Because they have captured the state machinery. They have captured the IEBC. You saw it when they stole election twice. They disobeyed the court. They have captured the judiciary. They have captured the security forces, which they are using to kill people. So how are you going to sit down to discuss an election with these guys? Unless this election is about the People's Republic of Kenya, then probably the NASA leadership needs some education in revolutionary politics. You don't discuss with an enemy that dominates the instruments of violence to have a common goal, especially a goal to take over government, because the goal of an election is to take over government, a goal to take over power that they have already usurped. Now, who in Kenya really believes that Jubilee government can go to another election in August after they have already stolen power and they have already elected a cabinet and they are using all apparatuses of the government to not just harass the opposition, not just to brutalize the opposition, but to kill the opposition. How do you talk about an election in this kind of situation? NASA, NRM should be talking about secession, unless you have forgotten the word. It is called secession. This is what you should be talking about. Stop election talk. But if the election is going to be organized by NASA, NRM, that's another story. Let's go for it. If the election is going to be about election in NASA zones for the establishment of a NASA regime headed by Raila Odinga, let's go for it. If the election is going to be about establishing government structures in NRM zones, let's go for it. But if you are talking about an election and including the gangster regime, then you are not with the people of the Republic of Kenya who elected Raila Amolo Odinga. In summary, stop talking about an election generally. Talk about the election in the People's Republic of Kenya to elect their representatives who are going to lead them under the presidency of Raila Amolo Odinga. That is one. Two, surely, unless you are wasting Kenyans' time, who amongst NASA supporters are going to, believe that you can sit down with gangsters from the Jubilee government to discuss an election? Unless that election is going to be held by the United Nations. That's another story. Let's go for it. But if you are expecting that there is somebody that is going to be formed to get a new election that is going to unite Raila Odinga supporters and Uhuru supporters, honestly, this is a dream. Because these guys, they have already stolen a lot of money from the taxpayers' coffers. How do you expect them to go into an election that they are obviously going to lose? Telling Kenyans that we need an election is like telling Jubilee that we have dug your grave, now let's go and bury you. Are they going to accept? Talking about an election is the same as telling Uhuru Kenyatta that let us go to prison, and Ruto, let us take you to ICC. Because the crimes they have committed against humanity, in the history they have as ICC suspects, means that when you tell them about an election that they are obviously going to lose, you are telling them that we are taking you to the ICC. How will they accept? These are individuals that have killed over 300 innocent Kenyans just from August, leave alone what they have done in the past, the political assassinations. I mean, we don't even have to go further than that. Then you are telling them to go to an election they are going to lose. How will they go there? It's impossible. So let's try to stop these jokes. The National Resistance Movement and the National Super Alliance, please, stop taking your supporters for granted. Otherwise, the Kenya Red Alliance is going to take over this movement. Our members in Kenya are already saying that, say something, and this is what we are saying. Talk about election is bullshit with this same government. Unless, of course, as said earlier, you are talking about an election organized by NASA in NASA regions, principally to elect, NRM leaders who are going to take over the national assemblies, the people's assemblies. Unless that is what we are talking about, and we are not understanding, then you are taking your supporters for a ride. We are together in this. We support the movement. We support the aspirations of the NRM, but we are not supporting talk about discussions of an election with Uhuru Kenyatta, sitting down with Uhuru Kenyatta to talk about an election with Ruto. Honestly, we challenge Nate. You need to clarify this. When you talk about an election, probably you mean well. Probably you mean that this is an election about the republic, the People's Republic, in which case it's perfect. It's the way to go. But if you are telling us to sit down with Jubilee, gangsters, you are joking. And I do hope that we are speaking for the people who elected Raila Odinga to take over. We are some of the biggest supporters of Raila Odinga, despite being, you know, a movement in our own right. But let's face it, we can't go to an election with Jubilee. It's over. Talks are over.